Hello, everyone. It is the Wednesday solder sesh, although there might not actually be any soldering in this one. So with me today, I have some awesome guests. I have Connor and Halle of Lixie Labs. And if you don't know about them and their cool things, you should. And that's what this stream is kind of all about. So I think the first time I saw you guys was through Tindy, and it was with the Lixie IIs, which we have here on the board. We have like a little kit for one that we'll be putting together today. Maybe even get to the second one as well. That would be cool. But I thought this was so cool. If you don't know what the Lixie II is, it's sort of, I know it's hard to see right here because it's all, clear acrylic right now. But it's sort of this modern take on a Nixie tube where you have acrylic numbers stacked behind each other instead of your, filament and neon going on like you do in the Nixie tubes. And then it has this like cool little edgelet mechanism where they all stick this way, I think, in front of the LEDs, and they all light up. And so it was really interesting and novel, and I got one. And now you guys are doing like full color RGB Pixie Chromas, and yes, and those look super cool. Woo! Awesome.
5x7 displays.
Yeah. So tell us all about everything. I would love to hear about, both about like how your journeys into STEM got started, how your fascination with LEDs got started, and tell us all about how you kind of went from the Lixies to the Pixies and everything.
So around 2012, I went to school with a guy named Andrew, and he told me one day that there was this computer that was $35 and the size of a credit card. And I didn't believe him. I thought that was, no way, that's gotta be a scam. And he's like, no, it's called a Raspberry Pi. And he let me borrow it. And one of the first examples you can find for a Raspberry Pi is how to put an LED on one of the pins and then do the little pseudo pin whatever to set it on. And as soon as that LED came on, it just clicked for me. Because I'd done software before, like websites, but all of that code exists behind a screen in a different universe. But when the LED comes on, it's literally like a little light bulb moment.
Yeah. It is really exciting, and it's kind of hard to convey how exciting that is until you've actually done it, I think. But yeah, making a thing do a thing is super cool.
Yeah, so I stuck with that, and I ended up getting really interested in it, found the Arduino. Adafruit has just thousands of tutorials for how to do this stuff. So I end up in 2016, I've got a few years under my belt, and I'm really interested in Nixie tubes because they're just gorgeous, but they're finite except for the ones that are being made by people like Dalibor Farney now. So they're quite expensive, especially the bigger ones. So I saw a few videos of people that had done edge lit signage and stuff before, or animations with it, and kind of reapplied that with a PCB, a light filter, and then 10 acrylic panes, each with a numeral. So that became the LED Nixie, the Lixie.
Sure. Love it.
I mean, we actually have a Nixie tube here, so you can see like how small you actually get them.
Yes.
Oh yeah, we have a top down camera. I just gotta find it.
Yeah.
So
there we go. Small. Yeah.
Something cheap. Bigger ones are like
this was $250.
Upwards of $150 per I don't know, what would you call it?
Per digit.
Per digit. Yeah.
Per tube.
Per tube. Yeah. We like one of the first things I did on a solder sesh was actually put together a Nixie tube clock. So yeah, and they are, I mean, I had those Nixie tubes sitting around for a year or so, and I think I got them for like $15 a tube. And like the last time I looked, I think that they were going for like over 20 a tube.
Yeah, they're pretty expensive.
Yeah, definitely expensive.
Well, and they have expiration dates. That's why it's so hard, because if you get an old one, Who knows? Because this one,
Yeah, this one, I don't have a functioning tens place on the seconds anymore. It
Yeah.
got like a little bit of burn in or something.
Yep. No, that's definitely an issue, and they're not really being made anymore because it's old tech. Although I guess that there are a few places that are sort of doing custom.
two. There's Dalibor Farney, and then
I can't
a
remember the
company
other
in.
guy.
Well, I know that they're in Ukraine.
I was going to say, yeah. Yeah.
Those are the two.
So the Lixie becomes quite popular.
Yeah.
And the original design looked like this. I've got one here.
Oh, look at that.
So,
super cool. Yeah.
So the 10 panes and then a base here. We'll light this up later to look at it. But
nice.
It had hot glued tops with like wood and acrylic. Once they were assembled, they weren't meant to be disassembled ever, which was kind of unfortunate if you got like if it was damaged or, you know, cooking grease in the kitchen nearby made them a little foggy. So Lixie II was my solution to that, and just leaving the panes as like a modular top loading version of that.
Yeah. No, that I can see how that would have been, how not being able to take it apart would have been maybe a little frustrating after it sits around for a while, right?
Yeah, that can get dusty.
Oh, cool. All right. Plugging in one. I'm going to try to pull up some instructions on how to put them together. I did find a broken link. Of course, as like this always happens. By the way, it's like definitely we always find something, right? But yeah, the link from Tindy wasn't working for the instructions. So I did manage to sort of maybe get there from the GitHub repo. Okay. So at least I have those, but I am not. There we go. Assembly instructions. Oh, yep, that's the one. I have a 404 not found error. But that's okay because I have you guys here, so you can talk me through how to put these.
He'll know a lot better. I'm really new to this whole entire world. Like the first LEDs I lit up were his Pixies, his original Pixies, and stuff like that. So I'd love to say that I fully understand everything, but most of the time he talks, I'm like, I kind of get you, but I'm definitely like, if I talk to myself a year ago versus now, it's so different. So it's I'm much more of I'm a very hands-on artist. Mm-hmm. So I love putting together a lot of product and doing all that sort of stuff. So I'm mainly like the logistics side and the shipping and all that's for Lixie Labs. So
well, you know, we all have to start somewhere, and like, you know, it is wherever you start is totally fine. And a year from now, you're going to be like, oh my God, I've learned so much just in this past year or two. So like, hopefully we all never stop learning, right? I mean, I'm a beginner at a ton of things too, because it's impossible to know it all.
No, I love 3D printing. I think that's one of the first things that I like grasped onto, because when we started dating, he brought over his printer to make me these. Actually, I had one. It's an airbrush bottle holder that could link together, because as a special effects makeup artist, I have a whole bunch of different colors, and they were always getting jumbled, and if they flip upside down, they'd spill. So he made me this, and I was like, you just made that on a computer and then printed it? How is that even possible? So after that, we don't have the best setup here right now, but it's fine. So my first thing that I ended up making, and they're all gonna fall out.
I love it.
Where is the camera going on here?
I think our desk cam's
a little frozen, but it's fine. There we go. Oh, so we have this, and it came with a bunch of these, but it only came with like 5 of them. And so I did the most basic of SketchUp things possible. And it has the worst elephant foot in the world. But I made a whole bunch of them, and I was like, oh my gosh, I just made something for that. It was like,
Right?
like the coolest feeling.
Yeah.
So then after that, I think I spent the next day, because he put SketchUp on my computer, and I made myself this little like incense burner, and I tried to like make it all designed and cool, and I printed it all on my own, and then I used it, and my incense burned all the way through it. So I don't have
I was gonna ask how that worked out. So there's
it would have been great for sticks, but I designed it for cones. I definitely was not thinking, oh, this is a meltable plastic. That's how it works. So,
you know, some things you just have to experience, and that's all part of the learning process.
I've burned so many boards. It happens.
Yeah, I think I exploded a little capacitor on one of your boards, on one of our test jigs for original Pixie. Was it a capacitor that I exploded?
Yeah, I think
yeah, I exploded a capacitor. I was like, hey, my first one! There we go!
Right?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, we had actually an exploding capacitor, I think, on the Nixie clock kit that we put together, which I still attest. I have video evidence that it wasn't our fault.
That's good. That's good.
Right. Nice.
Yeah, so kind of have another one. It's kind of with the multiple cameras and lights. We're getting a little bit of glare off of it, but it's got. Connor did some really cool settings with it to make it look like actual neon tubes. So there's a little bit of blue on every other digit except for the main one. And we can see it better in our top down.
And how much playing around with fonts did you do in order to get like the perfect Art Deco font for the numbers? Because I greatly admire that.
I actually, so the font, I noticed there was a few edgelit displays like this that already existed, but they would use a single stroke for the number, and a double stroke ended up just providing more light. And then geometrically, this one I settled on doesn't have a whole lot of overlaps for occluding the numbers towards the back of the stack. But I've found out at this point with the project I'm doing now that it really doesn't matter a whole lot if there's overlaps, if the LEDs are bright enough. Because I've got something cool to talk about later as far as Lixie.
Yay. Yay. That's super exciting. Cool.
Yeah.
So what should be my first step here? I see that, so I have some bases here that obviously these guys kind of slot into. And then
so you have two base pieces. Yeah, those are meant to stack on top of each other. And then the filter, which is the black printed part with the holes, goes beneath that. Okay, and the PCB goes beneath that filter.
Got it. And in the right direction, like that.
You got that right there.
Okay. So then that will go there. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and then the set of 4 shorter screws attach that base to the PCB.
Got it. So let's see. All right. And then these are all, oh, I see. Okay, this is very interesting. So so these guys are laser cut, or is it just acrylic pieces? These guys?
Yeah.
Yeah. So these are guys are laser cut acrylic pieces. And am I putting square pegs in round holes, or sorry, round screws in square holes?
It's actually it's a little maker trick for anyone. If you've ever outsourced laser cutting, if you don't have your own cutter, most of the companies will charge you for time that it takes to cut your file out. So squares for screws to go through are actually a little bit cheaper to get cut than holes, because it can have a longer acceleration time with a straight line.
Yep. That's super cool. That makes a lot of sense. And now I've learned something. That's awesome. Cool. All right. So that's the diffuser. That's there. That's there. This is screwing in short ones are screwing into there.
Yeah, so
And
there'll be 8 holes on the black base piece. Those inner holes will go to the PCB.
yes, got it. And then let's see, are my screws going in from this side or the other side?
Or the other side.
The other side. Okay, so the nuts go on this side.
Hmm?
Okay, cool. And then so the short screws are for the boards, and the long screws are then for
So those long screws are good for mounting it down if you make a base.
Okay. Right. If we
so
do
we offer STL files. Yeah.
Cool.
And they're also just good to have on because they'll kind of give it some legs to stand on where the header jumper wires can still reach.
Right. Cool. And yeah, I could probably I could use some little standoffs for now. That's super interesting about the square features. So we can take this one and we'll take that one. Just put these screws.
Oh yeah, for anyone watching who's curious, that black piece with the holes in it, at the time when I made the Lixie II, some of the smallest NeoPixel LEDs you could get were the 50/50 size, the big white ones.
Yep.
So in order to not have spill between panes, we create a little light filter so that the light only comes through where a pane will match up with it, not lighting up any of the ones that you're not currently using.
Got it. Cool. All right. And then this guy will go in here. Just doing this by hand for right now to kind of get things settled, and then make sure that this guy's going the right way.
That was from my very first 3D printer I had. I have a Prusa Mini now, and oh my goodness, it's a world of difference.
Nice.
It's probably a pretty rough looking print from that time.
Yeah, Prusa is definitely on my 3D printer list the next time we go and get one. What kind of a laser cutter do you have, out of curiosity? Sorry, I didn't quite hear that. Are you doing all the laser cutting out of house, ordering?
Where's the laser cutting happening?
The laser cuts for the Lixie parts were done with a company called Pinocchio.
Nice.
So Pinocchio.com, they'll quote any laser cutting files you give at them live.
Cool.
So it's really easy to tweak your design and get it cheaper and try it with different materials. They're a really good company. I highly recommend Pinocchio.
Yes, they are super cool. They also have like a little interesting credit program that that people, just depending upon what your business is, you may or may not qualify for, but it's worth applying for it. But basically, if you're doing stuff that's like in the maker realm, especially if you have like open source stuff that's educational, then you might qualify for their credit program as well. And so you get like some faster shipping and like a little bit of a discount on your orders.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
Yes, you should definitely apply for that, because I have a feeling that you might qualify. Yeah, I've used Pinocchio a lot, and we're now kind of on the realm of it being. It would be nice if we could do some of our own kind of rapid prototyping turnaround with a laser cutter here.
Yeah.
And so we're considering getting one at some point in time soon. But it's a big decision, so I feel like
those like big blue K40 cutters, or the professional ones if you can afford those.
Yeah,
they're pretty big.
Yeah, I think I have an OhmTech laser budget. So those are the ones that we're looking at. But it's also hard because I know that it's also going to be one of those things where you pay for the laser and then there's probably a bunch of upgrades that you're going to want to do for it. Or at least that I am.
Different like speed, grounding, different firmwares, if that's a thing. I
Yep.
love whenever I get like a new tool, the first thing I do is I go Google on like K40 laser cutter, custom firmware, or reflow oven, custom firmware. Go see what cool stuff makers have made that just blows my mind how they figure it out.
Awesome. Okay, so I am assuming that there is a
there is an
there's an
order.
order.
Yeah, here actually, let me get a piece of paper. I'll just write it on here for reference, unless it's. Fine.
Don't mind us. We totally got our stuff together.
Oh yeah, you should see our you should see our space. It goes up and down with being organized, and when we're in the middle of stuff, it always looks like we're in the middle of stuff. But that's okay.
You can pretty much see our entire apartment. It's like we got a really small space. We're very cramped.
Okay, so from front.
Oh, Bob was appreciating your cat. I missed your cat. I was too focused on building stuff.
Oh yeah, so we have 3 cats, and they are very, very. They're always up in our space in the best way. We love them. We don't have any cats that like hide, which is nice.
Yes. Nice. All right.
Okay, yes. So from back to front, are you able to read that text, or is it too small on our
I can sort of read it. Okay.
Yeah,
6,
so
5, 7,
from
4,
the back to the front, it's 65748390201, and then the decimal point. So here, let me just set this on.
Got it.
Elevated.
And
another reel for those boxes down there.
which is defined as the back and which is defined as the front?
Oh, yes. So if you look at the base pieces, one side of it will have a slightly larger tooth because one of your panes is thicker than the others.
Ah, yes. I do see that.
Actually, yeah, I had this wrong.
I even see, and that is the decimal.
So that one was slightly thicker because not everyone needs a decimal point for their display. And Pinocchio offers more acrylic options in the 3mm thickness. So I left that thicker in the back so that if you didn't need a decimal point, you could put like a black back plane or a tint or.
I already messed up.
Oh no!
It's okay.
I didn't think to remind you about that. That's my bad. I haven't assembled one of these in a long time. It's very interesting to watch.
A few years.
That's okay. So these guys, even though the whole pattern is symmetric, the
teeth are slightly different.
Yeah, the slots are slightly off. So I didn't catch that. And
that larger slot, if you look on the light filter piece, the two larger holes on your left side there, that will be the side with the larger teeth on the base.
Got it. Got it. Yes. Cool. So tell me then about, like, while I'm changing this out, tell me about how the Lixies became Pixies.
So the Lixies.
How did that progression go?
I eventually found these little displays called LTP 305s. And they're these little micro LED displays that have a 5x7 dot matrix on them. And I thought they were so cool. And I found a compatible driver chip called the IS31FL
3130.
3730. Something like that.
Look at that 5 times fast.
I realized that I could make these little displays chainable like the Lixies were. So the Lixies are really easy to add onto later if you want to make a bigger display, just because they're neopixels. So you just need the 3 wires, and then another one, and then another display, another one. So I did a similar thing with this AT Tiny on the back. where these are chainable. They talk one to the next, so you can have a big, long marquee.
Yeah.
And then, trying to remember my history here. Oh yeah, the Pixies. So they're just pixel Lixies. And then the chip shortage starts to happen.
Right.
My very first signs of it was I couldn't get, for whatever reason, I couldn't get these LTP 305s very easily.
Especially the green ones. The red ones were everywhere, but the red ones in photos, they seem a lot dimmer. So our green ones are what really selling. So it was really, it was a struggle.
So I switched over to 0402 LEDs. Basically just cloned it myself and sold those. These were called Pixie Pros.
We also had some code upgrades with that as well, though.
Oh yeah, this had a faster firmware. It ran on assembly code. And then the chip shortage really starts to hit, and you can't get microcontrollers, you can't get that LED driver chip. So I kind of had to pivot, and in the end, it was for the best. I think it's an easier product, it's a better product, and that's our Pixie Chroma PCBs.
Woohoo!
Oh.
Nice. Yeah, there you go. Nice.
So they are super easy to chain together, and you can put them in little modular printed enclosures like this and make them as long as you'd like and any color you want. So let me get this plugged in so we can show it.
Yeah.
What they look like. So I recently got to make something for myself. In 2019, around the time the Lixie II came out, I made myself a little plaque that says Lixie Labs 1,000 sales. A little 3D printed thing with a Lixie 1 board on it. And then just this month, I got to make another one.
Woohoo!
So Lixie Labs 3,000 sales with my chromas running on the bottom.
Nice. With a little infinity symbol. Nice.
Easier to see. So
cool.
And then a little kind of circuit sculpture thing in the back running it.
Excellent. Excellent. That's super cool. Super cool. So so you started the crowdfunding campaign for Lixie's last fall, right? For the Pixie Chromas.
Yeah, I think it was November, December.
The actual campaign, I believe, kicked off like December 5th and ended January 5th.
Yeah, I think it was a 1 month campaign.
Right. Days, something like that.
Yeah.
Around that time. It ended January 5th. We know that. That was a day we were just like, oh my gosh.
Right.
Oh, yeah. And then one more thing to note with the panes going in is you just have to double check orientation. So the side away from the larger pane, the very back pane. I think you have the backwards engravings.
So, okay, wait, hang on, actually. So, wait, decimal is at the back.
Yeah.
So, oh, crap. God damn it. It's hard to talk and focus at the same time, as it turns out, as I continually find out on this live stream. So now I lined up the little holders properly, but basically the larger slot should correspond to the larger opening for the LED here, and right now my larger slot is up there, and my larger LED opening is up there. No, it's not your fault. This is like,
I think one of the hardest things as an engineer is getting too comfortable with your own design, or getting too familiar with it, and you can't see it from an outsider's perspective and find the things that could be confusing.
It is always interesting to see somebody else use your stuff. Definitely for me too. People will definitely do things that I just didn't even Didn't even occur to me. So now I can be doing that for you. And okay, so now, haha. Okay, double, triple. Oh, wait, no, hang on. Not that. It's this guy that I need to. Okay, it's the filter that I actually need to turn around. So here we go.
Yeah, there was a reason that there was a demand issue that is why you moved to kits, right? It was
so hand assembling each of the Lixie ones at the time and packaging them as is, fully glued together. It just became very, very taxing to do that and to be able to keep up with what people wanted. So the Lixie II came in a kit form instead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, kits are great. Kits are great.
Fun.
All right, so now, now we got it right. This time for sure.
make sure the board goes on right.
Right. Exactly. Okay. Woohoo! So now we have large openings there with, it's going to be hard to see this because it's like a black background. But that's
black
okay.
on black.
I know, black on black here, but with the larger cutout for the decimal slot. And then we just want to put the board in like this so that it's like pointing in the same direction. At least that's how I kind of think of it. And we will just do that. No problem. And now we'll screw down.
Now we can fix it up.
Yeah.
So when those panes go in, the way these ones are made, so I think I saw it in your thumbnail when you still had the paper on them, the numbers were actually written backwards. They appeared written backwards. So if you engrave one of these displays from the back of the pane, it shows up brighter to the viewer than it is if you engraved on the front.
Interesting. Is that just because of sort of like a little bit of burnout at the top?
I guess something to do with refraction or, you know, a lot of physics there I'm not totally familiar with. But
right.
When you put them in, the easiest way to get them oriented is the sharp corners of the pane are what go down into the slot. And the engraving goes to the back of the display, and the back being the slot and the capacitor. Got it.
Yep. Okay. So now we have the decimal there, and that is looking good. And so then the decimal's in the back, and then it goes.
Number 6 would be next.
Now I gotta find number 6.
Oh yeah, they're hard to see. We had one sitting out to use as like for a comparison photo, and I had it on our rug, and then I went to go move, and I couldn't even see that it was there. I like just set it on.
And I also just want to make sure that I can tell 6 from 9, which I can. Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's just that sharp corners with like a little taper is the bottom. So
yep. Cool.
Yeah, I think you got it.
Then there we go. So then we'll put 6 here. Let's see. 6 there. There we go. And then the 5. Cool. So with your with the crowd supply campaign, like how ready were you to go when you launched? Was it like we have all the parts ordered, or was it we have everything except the order because we don't know how much demand there's going to be, so we're ready to go? But
so the way we did it is I got like 20 prototype boards completed for myself first, just to verify the design and get photos and write the code for it and get that all. So the code was all completely done. Photos were done. PCB design was done. But we didn't order any of the parts until after the money had cleared from crowd supply. So after a campaign on crowd supply ends, you'll have like 2-3 weeks somewhere around there before the money clears. Everything's verified on their end and they send it off.
Yep.
At which point I put in an order to PCBWay to get 77,000 LEDs placed on boards. And then when those boards were ready and they came back, one of my biggest warnings I can give other makers is just don't forget tariffs.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There was a 25% tariff on that whole order. It was $1,600 we weren't expecting. And we had
Right.
enough to cover it. It didn't stop us, but wow,
Yeah.
it was a sad day.
Yeah. Yikes. Well, and it can be hit or miss with tariffs too. Like sometimes it'll just sneak through without, and you're like, okay. But yeah, yikes. Having to plan on them stinks, and it's also hard to keep track of because everything changed very quickly. So yeah.
Yeah, the tariffs, the misplaced intent, I believe, of those tariffs was to bring manufacturing to be more domestic.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it actually worked because I just bought a pick and place machine from a really cool guy named Stephen Hawes, who's been on YouTube for like 2 years building an open source pick and place kit that he can give out. So I just bought one of his pick and place kits so that I never have to do that tariff thing again.
Yeah, there are a few US places that I've used for assembly, for circuit board assembly, but you know, definitely it's definitely more expensive than PCBWay for sure. And so it just all depends upon like
running a pick and place machine too. That just seems fun, even if there is someone domestic I can outsource it to. It just seems fun.
Well, and you built 2 of your own.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So the first one, my first pick and place, was like $150 3D printer from eBay that didn't even have a heated bed. But I just got, XYZ movement out of it. And then a specially printed base plate that could take the LEDs from peeled tape with a suction nozzle and bring them over, which is hard-coded G-code, to where they go on a PCB for Lixie 1. And then the solder paste was sticky enough to break the suction on the nozzle whenever you placed them down. So it didn't even have suction changes. And then
that's hilarious.
I attempted to convert an AliExpress laser cutter kit, like the black extrusion rails kind of ones, to my own pick and place, but that machine Stephen Hawes built just kind of outpaced mine, and it has a huge community on it now. So I just disassembled that the other night, and I'm waiting on my new machine.
Nice. I will definitely have to check that one out because that one was not on my radar. I've seen sort of the this was a few years ago, like the $2,500 ones on AliExpress, and I've always been like,
so like those Charm High ones on AliExpress.
Yeah.
They're the main problem I think for makers with those is that they're a closed firmware. So OpenPMP project right now is trying to basically take all of those and reverse engineer those machines to make them work. But the Lumen PNP is the thing I bought from Stephen Hawes.
Okay, cool.
And it's like $1,100. And it looks like one of those laser cutter frames. And it's actually really cool how he did it. It comes with all the rails and the fasteners and cameras and motherboards and vacuum. But you print all of your own structural pieces on your own printer from a big list, like a bill of materials.
Nice. So it's definitely like a print your own.
Which is kind of funny because a lot of companies are clearly moving to that, like Fuchsia.
Yeah.
Who, you see all the orange, you're like, oh, that was the printed part. That's so cool.
Yeah.
So, but the cool thing about that is we can kind of color it to whatever we want. So we just got this really, really insanely pretty.
So my machine's gonna be this wild pink.
Nice. This one, the last one doesn't want to sit super flat.
No, is it stuck?
Oh, just a little bit. Well, it might be happy there. We'll see if we can get that.
in my experience, it won't really hurt it if you need to like hold the paint in one hand and like give it a palm mallet with the other one a little bit.
Let's see if we can do that. Let's see. I might want to undo it. Well, I'll see if I can do it with the circuit board just in my hand here. I don't know. Let's see. No, I think I'll probably have to take the circuit board out.
Yeah, the Lixie II, it's a really good display, but looking back, I do have problems with how I designed that base. I didn't have a good enough 3D printer yet to like get a friction fit, low tolerance kind of thing like I would do nowadays.
Yeah.
I could just do those little light filters and the cap that goes on.
Haha.
Hey.
Yay!
All right. I think that's good enough, at least. At least for now.
Cap, there's kind of a trick to it. If you sort of comb it on one side and get it, between all the panes, and then rock it down and kind of snap it. Hopefully that cap is like a good one, because those.
Interesting. Okay, so I think I understand what you're saying here. So kind of like do it like that.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. This might be a job for for not live TV.
Most
Pressure
of
is
the ones with the
definitely
photos
on.
don't have the cap. I think the cap was kind of just if you wanted it, sort of.
Yeah,
thing.
it helps it spill a little bit less light if you're into a darker display. Some people really like how much color comes off onto like the backsplash of the wall behind it.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
But some people want them a little bit dimmer.
Oh, yeah. Look at that. Like a pro.
Hey, that looks awesome.
Nice. That's super cool. I really like the size of it. I like how big it is.
Yeah, I figured if I'm going to try to emulate Nixie tubes, I should emulate the ones that everyone really wants, the big, massive,
giant,
rare ones.
Nice. Awesome. So now we have all of the panes, and you can see them on the side here. Definitely should have done this. Let me see. Hang on. I think I have a black background that I can kind of very quickly put over here, because definitely clear on white is not working out for me here. All right, let's try that. Ooh, that's better. Cool. So you can see all the panes.
Yeah.
Numbers a little bit better. Cool. And then the board is underneath. Nice. And we have an Adafruit Metro here.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So
Is that a 328p controller?
what's that?
Is that one of the 328p 8 mega?
Yeah, it's basically very similar to an Uno.
Yeah.
For Arduino Uno, it's basically Adafruit's version of that. So yeah, it's 328p based. It maybe has like a little bit different of a different thing going on with the USB.
Oh yeah, it's a little bit.
With the serial to USB, it's it's a slightly different chip. There might be a little bit different power regulation, but actually I think it's more or less the same. And then it has the micro B instead of the like big old style. I think it's an 8.
The
No, it's a regular B connector that the Unos have. Yeah. Cool. All right. So, and I think you guys have some example sketches, I think.
Yeah, so the Arduino library manager, you should be able to look up just Lixie, and you'll see the list of the different Lixie libraries that have come out. Nice. And the Lixie II, the Roman numeral 2 library would be the one to use.
Cool.
And it'll come out, I think I've got it pulled up here. It comes with an example called Count Up. So really the only thing you would need to change on the Count Up example is, how many Lixies are in your chain, and which GPIO are you gonna use for the data line for the LEDs?
Cool. So we got that. Ooh, look at that. Cool. Plunk, plunk, plunk. Easy as that. Awesome. And it didn't tell me that I needed to do anything else. So do I need to also have like fast LED?
I think, yeah. So they introduced the ability for Arduino libraries to declare dependencies
Yes.
after I made this one. So if you don't have fast LED, that's another one to get.
Cool. Ooh, maybe count up. Cool. So, okay, I will go ahead and include, look for a fast LED here.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. Cool. There's also a fast LED NeoPixel.
Oh yeah, it should just be fast LED.
Normal fast LED.
Daniel Garcia is the author, if I have his name correct.
Daniel Garcia. Yeah, cool. All right. And so let's see. So this board, we got the Metro. And let's see, I think we are COM13, maybe. Let's see.
Your desktop window is frozen on our end.
Oh no. Oh, it's because of the window thing. Hang on, let me fix that if I can. Yeah, our Arduino opened another window, so it stopped sharing. So we'll just do entire screen because it might be a little bit easier. And we'll quick minimize ourselves here. And yeah, I have a ridiculously big screen, so I'll try to make this bigger.
There's a trick with the Arduino IDE. If you hold Control and scroll up, you'll get a bigger font size.
Ooh, check that out. Nice. Thank you for that pro tip. I did not know that. Awesome.
Coming from a blind man.
as a blind man with a high DPI display that I have to do stuff like that on all the time.
All right. So now we're plugging in the Metro again, and that is COM13. And I don't have it plugged into the Lixie yet, but that's okay. I'll just go ahead and upload just to make sure that that all goes well.
Is the Metro 5 volts or 3.3?
That is a really good question.
You always try 5
I do not
first.
know what it might actually be 3.3 communication.
Okay.
So, I mean, it has the 5 volt from the USB, at least, port on it. But yeah, I'm not, off the top of my head, I'm not sure. And I don't want to necessarily assume that it's 5 volts. All right.
I found that NeoPixels, I don't know, a lot of people complain that if they use a 5 volt power supply, they need to use a step-up converter if they have 3.3 volt logic levels. But I personally, I've plugged in tons of just straight to the 5 volt and straight to 3.3 volt GPIO on the LED, and still generally works.
Yeah, most of the time. So I haven't had any problems either. I know I've heard from Jason Kuhn, who does the Fibonacci displays, that very occasionally he'll have one that, is not happy directly off of 3.3 volts. And, it's like one of those things where it's right on the edge of the spec. So it can't be guaranteed, but more oftentimes than not.
It's always best to match it up.
Yeah. All right. So let's see. Data pin is 13 here. So I'm going to keep that the same. And powering it off of 5 volts and ground here. Ooh, number of digits though is 4 here. So I'm just gonna put number of digits as 1. And
that should be good.
I will need to resave the sketch to another location. Yes, because it's an example. So we'll just do.
You do what I do and just bash the keyboard if you're just noodling and you don't think it'll be important, and then resave it as an important file name later.
Exactly. All right. And it's also a new install of Arduino on this computer, so I don't have my usual verbose data logging or output messaging going on, but that's okay. All right, so we are done uploading, and I am going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen so that I can make sure that, that's the wrong one. The wrong one. It's a little bit tricky having only one screen doing this. There we go. So, all right. So
yeah,
now
computer's over there with all my screens. We're just
on my Mac.
Okay, so that's the data outside. This is the data inside. And I kind of color coded this here. So I have gray, white, and black. Black, of course, is ground, like it always should be.
Yep.
So we'll pick that one up.
Unlike AC wiring, where black
Oh my God.
is like live one.
Yeah, I have to concentrate so hard when doing anything near AC because all of my reflexes are backwards. Yeah.
Gosh.
So then 5 volts is white, and that's going to go to 5 volts. Shoot. And then gray is our data line, and that's going to go to data in. Woo! Things are happening.
Oh, beautiful.
Do. Oop, other way around. There we go. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. Woohoo!
Hey, we got it.
We did it. Check that out. That is super cool. Of course, it's like with all the bright lights in here, it's a little.
Oh yeah. Well, they're like the Lixies are just infamously hard to capture on camera, just because it is kind of a high dynamic range display. Yeah. It's very bright compared to its surroundings.
Yes. That is super awesome, though. Look at that. Exciting.
There's an interesting reason. Do you know why the digits go in that weird order?
So the only thing that I've heard about it is that they're like, basically when they were making Nixie tubes, they figured out the order for the particular kind of font, I guess, of numbers that they were using, where they felt it was least occluded. Like the ones in front would least occlude the ones in back.
Yeah, like decimal points or ones are towards the front.
Yeah.
But that order that I did there, that 6, 5, 7, 4, 8, 3, 9, 2, 0, 1, that's burned into my memory forever at this point. If you watch, it'll actually kind of oscillate from front to back as it counts up. So if you're using it as a clock, it'll have a really pleasant kind of back and forth, as opposed to the front, pop, and then to the front, pop back.
Nice. Yeah, that is true. That's something that I had never thought about when looking at my own like Nixie displays, is that kind of pleasing jitter, I guess. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So okay, so we went from Lixies to monochrome Pixies to Pixie Chromas, successful crowdsourcing, crowd supply campaign. And so now you're just shipping them, right? People can go buy them off of crowd supply. And is there any wait time? Or are you kind of still doing it in batches, or are they
so the way crowd supply works, for anyone who doesn't know, it's really neat. You raise the money, you get the capital, you do your order, and you actually send all of your finished units with special like barcode tags in bags to Mouser, who is Crowd Supply's parent company. And then Mouser will handle the individual fulfillment of all of the orders.
Nice.
And they also purchase stock for themselves. So like if you sold, 100 of something, Crowd Supply will buy anywhere from like 50 to 100 for themselves. And then they become a vendor for you. So right now, you can go buy a Pixie Chroma kit on Crowd Supply still, even after the campaign. And your order will get delivered at the same time as the backers' orders in this first batch.
Yeah, we shipped everything all at once, all in one box.
It's terrifying.
It was so scary. I had to go on my lunch break and go and meet him at like the FedEx store, and we were just like, "Oh, this is the scariest thing we've ever done. Here's this gift. There you go.
Here's $10,000. Make it nice to it."
Yeah. Oh man, yeah. That I can imagine how terrifying that would be.
It was also weird to have that many units in one. It wasn't a very big box either because they're so tiny.
Yeah.
But yeah, when they got here, they came in these panels, and I depanelized all of them, and Connor tested them. So we had a really, really good rhythm going.
Nice.
But then after that, we realized, oh my gosh, we need. I think I ended up cutting out 80,000 headers in sections of 3.
Oh my God.
When I tell you, yeah, we have 2 pairs of flush cutters, and if I didn't have the good ones with me, I was at work or something. I was not having it. They're very, very destroyed pair. This was absolutely will do that, and then a good pair. And
so I'm like, how many episodes of Grey's Anatomy did that take? Or like, what other thing were you watching that has to have like 30 seasons for you to get through all of it?
We were watching like American Horror Story and YouTube and whatever we could to pass the time.
Yeah, it was. Well, and then we forgot to order the bags for the headers. We didn't want to put the headers just straight in the ESD bags. Yeah. So I made these little paper folded things and rubber banded them. And I did that about 1,000 times.
Oh my God.
And we love her for that because, wow.
So when you get them and you open it up and you're like, oh, wow, look at this nice little rubber band that's wrapped around this paper. And I did that 1,000 times. It was the most exciting thing ever, though, because like, when we were doing, because my first product with him was regular Pixie, and then moving on to Pixie Pro. So whenever I got to like cut out like, I don't know, like 50 headers, wow, that was so cool. Oh my gosh, look at this batch. But then we're like, oh yeah, we'll go through this whole bag. That'll probably be fine. We go through the whole bag. We're like, we gotta buy 40,000 more headers. Oh my gosh. It was fun. So, yeah.
Yeah, that is super exciting, though. I mean, that sending off that box must have been scary, but also very fulfilling, right?
It was like a postpartum depression for me. I felt so useless like the day after it was all done because it was like I had spent. So I started in late July on like the PCB, and then August is when I started the CGI ad that we did for it and all the preparation for it. So finally, like this month, March, I finally have like days where I'm just kind of waiting because they're all off at Crowd Supply. They're being forwarded to customers now. So no one has them yet, and I don't have them, and I'm in this weird purgatory.
Right? It's like it's the anticipation, right? It's like the calm before the storm of everybody getting them, and then posting all about their projects, and that'll be super exciting. I mean, that'll be the best part is like seeing your things go out into the world and seeing what people make out of them, right? Yeah, very cool. I am super behind on reading the comments right now, but yeah. So Bob, there are. I think you figured it out. Yes, there are different versions of the Adafruit Metro. He was asking. He was like, "Oh, I thought that they had like an M4 processor on it," and like, yeah, there's the regular Metro. I think that there's the Metro Mini, which is sort of the smaller form factor one, and then there's like the Metro M4. There might even be a few more Metros in there. as well. Yeah. Oh, Airlift ESP coprocessor. Yes. And and it does use 5-volt logic levels. There we go. So, but they do have jumper settings to convert it to 3.3-volt logic.
Oh, I love that. I don't have a whole lot of controllers that can play games like that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Them.
Yeah. That is a neat thing. Cool. So tell us about testing all of the Pixie Chromas, because that must have been a job and a half. And did you kind of have from the start like, oh, I'm gonna have to make something to test all of these, and was that in the back of your mind, or did it
so I made the test jig before I even did the big order. If I could find a bare board that doesn't have header pins.
Yeah, we don't have any more bare boards anymore. They're all at Mouser.
No,
not quite. But It feels like it.
I have a second digit here that I might just start work on putting together here.
Sure.
maybe this time I will do it more quickly and make less mistakes.
So when you end up selling hundreds or something, you want to have a very efficient method of testing or writing firmware to it if it needs firmware. So what I came up with is just this little, it's half resin print, half like FDM print on the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a Pixie Chroma on the front that just has little blinky eyes right now. He's just gonna look around and wait for a job.
It is super cute. Like that's what caught my eye in the tweet. Was it reminded me there was a little desktop robot thing that was.
Yeah, where is that?
Where is it?
Here he is. Yeah, so
yes,
there were these little things until the company went under, and now like some other company owns it. But yeah, he had little eyes that lit up. That's exactly what I was thinking of.
Nice.
So there are 6 pogo pins. Oh, I think my desk cam's behind. Let's just do it on the main cam. So there's 6 pogo pins on the top here for 5-volt ground data and then 5-volt ground data out. Mm-hmm. And what this jig does, is this a good one?
That's a good one.
This is
we have a bag of the bad ones, so don't worry. We know.
So when I place this on, it's going to go through each color channel of each LED.
Mm-hmm.
And then this one passed, we get a green check mark on the front and the color cycle there. And what it did actually is there's an ESP32 inside here that is watching for continuity between the data in and the data out pin. So when you send data to the board and it successfully comes out the other end, you know that a board is present. Mm-hmm. So that's our check for knowing if it's there. And then there's also, it's watching the voltage drop of each of the LEDs using one of the ADC pins. So that way it can compare it to a known good value.
Yeah.
So that if any of the sub LEDs are broken or dimmer than usual, it will set off a red flag, and it'll show you on the chroma on the front which LEDs up top are having an issue.
Do you want to see if this is one of those boards?
Right, because those are all, they are not like addressable LEDs. Those are just standard RGB LEDs that have like four pins. Yes, like red, green, and blue channel.
No, these are actually the NeoPixel compatibles. They're 15-15 size.
Oh, interesting. How are you measuring the voltage drop?
So I am actually powering. So the power comes in on the top of the PCB on that 5-volt pin. And at the other end of it, I have it tied to an ADC pin on the microcontroller. And I've noticed that whether or not this is how it's supposed to work, it just does. When the LED draws enough current, that supply voltage drops down, from 5.0 to 4.8, but a measurable amount.
So that way, I got it. So it's not like the voltage, because I'm like, wait a minute, how are you measuring like the forward voltage of the LEDs if they're
No, it's more like
okay.
the bus voltage, I guess, if
Got it.
that's a better way to put it.
Interesting. Huh. And it's different for the red, green, and the blue because the current is slightly different for each of those colors.
Yeah, so there's a lookup table in the firmware of this for each the red, green, and the blue.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. That is like a very interesting hack.
Thank you.
It's grumpy right now.
Get it
How did you figure that out, or was that something that you like knew to look for?
I think the first time I did this was on the very first Lixie testing jig,
Mm-hmm.
and I just noticed that I can't remember. I think I had a multimeter on it or an oscilloscope, and I noticed that whenever the LEDs changed, that bus voltage changed a measurable amount.
Huh.
So another thing this test jig does that is really important that I think is very easy to forget about is it checks continuity of the outgoing data. So
Yes.
when I put this board on, it's not just making sure the LEDs themselves work, it's making sure that data actually comes out the front. So this board has a data continuity issue. So all the LEDs work, but that last LED isn't actually talking to the output pin, or it doesn't have continuity with it.
Right.
Whereas a jig that just lights up the LEDs wouldn't tell you if it's actually going to power the board next to it.
Right, and pass it on. Interesting. Cool. Very cool. Interesting. And so how was your yield? How many did you end up not being able to use?
That one's part of the bag.
So
you give me one good one. Give me the one that was already sitting right there.
This one?
There you go.
Okay.
And then one pass me the bowl.
Yeah. So I got let me do the math really quick. I got 185 panels of 60.
1,110 boards.
That's right. Yeah. So out of 1,110,
16 here.
Yeah, these are the only dead ones from PCBWay. So I can definitely vouch for their quality control on making those work for us.
Nice. That is not that bad at all. Cool. Well, second time around is much faster.
Yeah.
So I've verified that I have the larger decimal slot in the right position, and the grading is facing the proper way. And I haven't put the board in yet. I might ask you to put the cheater sheet up again with the order.
Yes. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. At some point, we'll get a better setup. It'll happen.
I forgot for a minute there. You had two of them. Here's the sheet.
I know. We got two to build. Okay, cool. So then we got 6 there. Cool. So then on an ongoing basis, then is Mouser and Crowd Supply going to be your like sole ordering platform, or are you going to, put these on your website? Are you thinking about trying to, do any wholesaling and get other people to carry them?
Yeah, so they're on Crowd Supply right now, and from what we've heard from Crowd Supply and read through in their documentation, once their stock of it sells out, if it's popular enough, they're likely just to reorder, like send another purchase order over for us. And then I'll just say it, Adafruit picked us up. So
woo! Congratulations. Awesome.
Very soon.
Yeah.
So that's going to be really fun. And our Tindy, the Tindy has kind of taken a back burner right now while I just have these other vendors that can do all the fulfillment stuff for us. But in the future, I think my flagship, my big scale products will go with vendors, and my more handmade like artisan stuff goes in our Tindy store, the more limited runs.
Cool. So like the Lixies will probably still be in your Tindy store if you just keep them again, right? Because I think they're sold out right now, aren't they?
Oh yeah, the Lixies, they've been discontinued for a while because so they actually stopped production in early 2020 because Pinocchio switched over to doing PPE for the pandemic and laser cutting face shields and things like that for a little bit. So we are getting back to Lixie very soon. And I've showed it off a little bit on the Twitter page, but I have Lixie 3.
Woo!
Right here.
Oh, check it out.
So it comes in a unibody plastic shell.
And it looks like it has like a little grating in front of it too.
It does.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. That is very Nixie tube-ish.
Yeah, so this is actually just printed flat and then folded with a straight edge and then sort of locked in. So the Lixie 3 has just those, we just gotten better at making stuff over time.
Absolutely.
The brass inserts on the bottom for screwing it in. And
nice.
The panes are removable just like the Lixie 2, but not quite as, it's kind of precarious. You wouldn't want to drop a Lixie 2, whereas these, they're kind of...
We've done a lot of really fun stress testing with this. This technically only has a dummy board in it that we 3D printed and stuff like that. This one, obviously, it's not functional, but we have definitely like, oh yeah, no, it's not gonna. It's been fun to kind of stress test it. We'll be like, I'll be cooking in the kitchen, and they're like, hey, catch, and it's awesome. So
been through a lot of durability tests. So the PCB for these will actually get here tomorrow, so I can have my first full prototype of it. But right now, behind me here, it's been going. I don't know how well it'll show up on camera, but I have a sort of hack version. So let me get. Let me get this plugged in. In my impatience for waiting for the Lixie 3 PCBs, I just took a Pixie Chroma PCB and a custom shell around it and rigged up my own.
Nice.
Like they kind of show it off. So
yeah.
Durability test. So
oh,
quite
cool.
bright. Let me see if I can actually.
Yeah.
There. A little easier to see on this one.
Oh, nice. Oh, and look at that font. Different and still cool. I love it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is actually 88 1515 LEDs inside of this display, just to get the brightness just way up so you can read it. Like I have it on a white background with some glare here, and I think you can still kind of make it out.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely.
So that goes behind a shield and with a back on it. So I just kind of hold these together for now to look at it. But yeah, that's the Lixie 3.
You have a light shining straight down on it, and it is still there.
Yeah, if I go around on this side,
visible.
you can see.
It's still super visible.
Awesome. Very, very cool.
We think it's taking all the best parts about Lixie 1 and the best parts about Lixie 2 and just really putting it into one display. And then because everything on Lixie 2, there's only a few 3D printed things versus now with the Prusa, it's so much more 3D printed. Now that we've really tuned in how to 3D print and how to design, an extremely durable print.
So yeah, here's like one of the empty shells. So it'll just print on the bed like this. And then panes will go in on this side. A little, I call it the comb. The comb friction fits in and holds the pane still. And then so we're going to offer these with and without the grading on the front, just depending on your taste or your preference. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, yeah.
So we'll call it the Retro Shield. So the Retro Shield is not just an aesthetic thing; it also stops fingerprints and like cat hair from getting in easier.
Right. Nice. Nice.
That's the Lixie 3. And it's a little bit, so your Lixie 2s you have there are pretty much the same size as the first model I have here. And here's a size comparison.
Okay. Yeah. So little thinner, little svelter.
Yeah.
Cool. Very cool.
And I'll just send some of those your way when they're ready.
What? That'd be awesome.
A neat part about it is that if you wanted to like mount this on like the underside of like shelving for like your workbench,
all the panes can fit in either way.
Yeah,
so you can mount these upside down.
Pop out the panes and flip it upside down and have them float.
Nice. Yeah. Very cool.
Because of it being that durable, you turn them over, they're not going to fall out or anything like that. It's so well held together.
Yeah.
Cool. So what is the funnest thing that somebody has made out of your Lixies that you were just like, whoa, that is super cool and unexpected?
There's two really cool ones. The first was this guy named Max, and Max made a retirement clock. So he got 12 of them. He made a big, years, months, days, hours, minutes, seconds, until his like retirement date. And then he added like a little rotary phone. I don't know what that's called.
The dial? Yeah.
And then something to interpret those signals, so he can like enter in timers onto it. And then the other one was the company Blizzard that makes games like World of Warcraft. They launched some sort of application for their BattleNet services, and they wanted a counter of how many messages people had sent through it. So in the Blizzard office, there's some Lixie 1s up on a shelf that say how many messages were sent. Yeah, 10 Lixies.
I was going to say they must need a lot of digits for that.
Yeah, actually, it's when I made that display, I realized that a 32-bit variable only goes up to 4 billion.
Yeah.
And to fully utilize that display, I had to do some tricks to get a 64-bit variable for the number.
Nice. That's funny. Oh, right. So I have my second one. So I'm going to daisy chain it, but we have to change the code, I think, to make it have 2 digits. And then hopefully both of them will light up if I've done everything properly. So, all right, we want to get the color order again, and I'm going to put ground in the middle. Data out is gray, and 5 volts is white. And then we're going to hook it up to the data in of this one. And we got ground and 5 volts and data. All right. So
I know actually they feed right to left.
Oh, that's
on these displays. Yeah, you just swap them around.
There we go. Do that. And then I'm just going to quick change number of pins or my number of displays. Send it to the Metro. Okay, let's see. 2, 3,
You should
4,
count up to 10 now.
6, 7.
Or just goes to 10.
8, I mean, it'll go to 99.
9.
But,
Woo! Excellent.
Yay!
Woohoo! Check that out. Nice. Success. So yeah, I have no idea what I'm going to now do with my cool 2-digit display.
If you have like a temperature sensor, you can make a little thermostat for your room, or like a Open weather map is an option. You can have an ESP8266 make a request for your outdoor temperature.
Mm-hmm.
And then the color can be like the weather state.
Yeah. Nice. I'm thinking like what things are basically between 0 and 100 that it would just be really cool to display, like other than temperature. But temperature is a good one. It is a nice display for temperature for sure. Assuming that it stays under 100. Yeah. Have to do it in C maybe when it gets really hot. Cool. What do you think we should do with it, Robin? Got any ideas for things we should count?
Doomsday.
Doomsday clock.
You only need 2 digits, it feels like.
Oh gosh. Yeah. You can also do like, I think you can hook it up to have like how many people are viewing this live stream at this moment.
Yeah, so like in the APIs where you can grab a number and get an ESP board to read that number.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We do have some of those lying around. So we have some people in the comments display how many days left to get out of COVID quarantine. There you go. COVID counter. Does it ever go over 100 F in San Luis Obispo, which is where we are? It does. It hopefully it is still somewhat unusual. Like it's definitely a heat wave. If it's even in the 90s, it's a heat wave for here. But we generally do get a couple of weeks, kind of oddly scattered throughout the year, where it does get pretty hot. Oddly enough, like we usually have an October heat wave.
Yeah, well, and we had one like a few months ago.
Yeah, there was a weird
February where it was just 85 for a week straight, which was terrible and weird.
Well, it's getting up to like 80 here, and we're in Salt Lake City, Utah, where we're surrounded by mountains and snow, and it's been getting hot. But then also, I think about a little over a week ago, we had an insane snowstorm where we got like a foot of snow.
So if you look at a thermometer, you could just do it in Celsius, because if it ever hits 3 digits, then
then we're all dead. It doesn't matter. And frankly, here, well, it could actually go. It can get below 0 at it can get below 32 or whatever F at nights here, but we won't be in the shop when that happens. And hopefully inside the shop, it shouldn't ever get below freezing.
One of the options with these, they don't. So like the more panes you add to a stack display like this, the worse your like viewing angles are or brightness towards the back of it. So instead of like a hyphen character for negative, signed integers, you could represent it in code, be like if value less than 0, change the color.
Oh, I like it.
Red will always be negative,
which is good for like stock counters and stuff like that.
Yeah, there you go. That is good. I actually almost forgot that you could change the color on these, because it's like they look so cool right now. Like it has that nice warm almost tube color to it, which I like.
Yeah, and having like the option for like a color aura is really, really neat for it, or just turns it on, because it really feels like it's encapsulated. Which is honestly, in my opinion, the coolest thing about this is because of the retro shield over it. When you have that aura on, it truly feels like it's encased. It's like because there's no light leak in any way. In comparison to like 1 and 2, at certain viewing angles, you can kind of see the LEDs. Versus these, there's 0 light leak from the pane, because the LED is 1.5 millimeters, and so is the pane. So there's no way to put that leak. Super cool for that.
That's very cool.
One of the things you can do with that Lixie II when you want to is the way it works for showing the numbers and the color is there's actually, it's almost like there's 2 layers. There's your color map and your mask. It's the same way a Pixie Chroma works, where the color map on a Pixie Chroma, let me grab, I don't know where they went. The Pixie Chroma has a color map where all of the LEDs have, you know, like if you set it to a rainbow, there's a rainbow across the whole thing. But the mask is basically a stencil that goes over the top that represents the shape of your text or your image. So that way your text can move independently of the color and the color can move independently of the text. So the Lixie II has a similar thing where you have a color map and a mask, where the mask, instead of a bitmap image, it's just which 2 LEDs are on. So right now that you've got orange LEDs on, but you can actually set all the other LEDs that are meant to be off to be like a 1% brightness blue. This little bit of glow, little bit of aura glow off of it, kind of like a neon tube. It's really cool.
Yeah. That makes sense. Cool. Very cool. Yeah. Oh, that'll be cool. Ooh, we're almost about to wrap here.
Oh.
99. Boo! Cool.
They're also just like so pretty to look at. Like if you like turn off every single light and just look at them, they're just like, so neat.
It's a nice pleasant glow in the room.
Just calming. That's true. It could be you could do stuff like meditation timers with it, or workout like repetition timers sort of things as well.
That's a good idea.
Like it counts to like 15 and then gives you, it counts like 60 and then another 15. Yeah, that could be cool.
Totally.
A good example to throw in.
Yeah.
Workout spaces, cool down times.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, cool. Well, this has been super fun. Is there anything else that you guys want to tell us about? Anything else that you're up to?
Show some art?
I mean, I can.
Yeah.
We should get some background on what Lady Lixie does.
Yes.
This makes the coolest art ever.
Do you want to show you the spots? I can show.
Oh, yeah.
No, let me show you the stuff. So I feel so weird being like, feeling like I'm in the maker community because I'm an artist, and I know that is sort of in the maker community, but I like,
absolutely,
I don't know, I feel like I don't do all the cool stuff you guys do.
Whatever.
She knows how to like
stuff and like
yellow, magenta, and cyan and stuff. I don't understand.
I know
that at all.
That's something that we always polar opposite, because I'm so much more pigment based and he's so color based. And I'm like, just mix those colors, and he's like, that's not how that works.
Additive versus subtractive. Yeah,
it does.
Green is part of yellow to begin with.
So
yeah.
Gosh, I don't know what to show off. I guess so I have a lot of basis in horror art. Is that okay to share?
Heck yeah. Anything goes.
So I'll start with my big boy. I love to go here in Utah. We have a lot of thrift stores, like a lot of I don't want to say like privately owned thrift, like little ones. We have like a lot of chain ones, and our biggest one always has the weirdest, slightly religious art ever. So I love taking art and just taking those types of paintings and just kind of destroying them.
Nice.
So, like taking this boy that I can tell was in a church, like where the frame originally came from, and just really goring him up and stuff like that. So. Yeah, I do a lot of stuff like that.
I love it.
And then, I know my stuff doesn't do anything. It just sits there and looks the way it is. It doesn't change colors. It's just there.
Art does things. It makes you feel things.
It does.
It moves you.
And then like this is a little creepy guy that I've made. I'm not done with his hair application. I still plan on doing him like a full mohawk all the way to the front. But his eyes are super shiny because I actually used resin from our resin printer and cured it in our resin curing machine.
Nice.
That's a hack. That counts.
Yeah, so
You're a maker.
I'm a maker. Look at that.
Yeah.
I'm starting to try and do, obviously we're not really going to be able to tell, but I'm starting to try and do lithopanes with printing, which obviously you can't see anything.
It's how it would show up.
Kind of, but technically it's this art in lithopane form, which, obviously that shows nothing. So yeah, I love doing the 3D printing stuff because it's much more, I have to see everything. So coding is really difficult for my brain to process. If I can't see every single part of it all at once, I get lost and confused and frustrated and just like, I can't see it, I don't get it. So like
it's a
one
lot
of the things that
compartmentalizing that you have to do with coding. It takes a while to get used to it. Like, yeah.
Like I learned to do MIDI music, MIDI tones. Is that what I did?
Yeah, pretty much.
I think that's what I did.
She transcribed MIDI to Arduino tone functions.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
I made my mom. I wish I had it to show, but I don't. My mom has it. I made her this 3D printed. It was like 4 different parts that were just stacked together of a Deathly Hallows symbol. And then the front was, we were going to try and put LEDs in it, but it just didn't really work out to try to fit everything inside. But then I did little MIDI to Arduino tones of it playing, just certain songs from Harry Potter. Yeah.
Nice.
So, yeah. But I guess like one of the more, classic maker things is pottery. So I'm huge into pottery, specifically things like teapots. So yeah, no, like I love working with the glazes and stuff like that. And the science that goes in for glazes and stuff is just absolutely crazy. So,
Glazes do have data sheets.
Glazes do have data sheets. Glazes have crazy data sheets because most glazes will just give you cancer. Like like not like state of California cancer, like everywhere around the world.
Yup. No, yeah. So how do you have like a pottery studio that you're a part of or
I used to work at one as a teacher and the manager. But over time it's one of those things where when the owners just don't care enough, you kind of gotta move on from there. So I honestly, I started out as pottery, and then because I lost my ability to have access to a studio and to fire things and stuff like that, I moved towards other art forms like sculpting, with polymer clay and stuff like that. So you're a cute little mushroom guy and stuff like that. So yeah, and now that I've kind of figured out lithopanes, I'm really going to try and actually push myself more into lithopanes with LEDs. It's kind of, attempt. He's probably going to do a lot of that, but.
Well, I was just going to ask. I was going to be like, so are you thinking of incorporating LEDs into your art now?
Yeah, no, I've definitely wanted to take because it's hidden back there, but our jig has a cute little eyes, right? I've been wanting to just take a chroma just like this and sculpt a spot into like a little robot that I make that's kind of like that one, where I can plug this guy in and have it be a cute little face. Because I think it would just be adorable to have this like little standing sculpture that I'm able to paint, but then he has a fully functioning face and stuff. But yeah, it was definitely something we realized that these are perfect eyes for like.
Everyone loved the test jig.
Yeah. So yeah, but like I most of my art is so hands-on. I really didn't start doing like paintbrush style stuff until more recently. Most of my stuff was like block printing where you have to carve it first. Just the same action that you can get with doing clay work and pottery. I'm like I don't know. I feel like none of the supplies. I feel so weird.
No, this applies. This definitely applies.
Half of the things you work with can make you sick. It takes a lot of effort and creative input to be able to do art like this. No, it's
absolutely.
But like I feel like I like to put just all different types of things together. So like all different types of textures and stuff like that.
That's what makers do.
Yeah. So I guess hey, I guess a maker thing I did is I made this sign that is actually
I have been admiring that sign as you've been sitting there. Very cool.
But it is a fully
it's like a tied string.
Yeah, it's string art with polymer clay, foam letters, and then an LED strip going all the way around it. So that
very cool.
And lights up. Normally we would have it somewhere on a wall, but we don't have a shot really that works well for our extremely messy apartment. So
I understand. You have like the nice presentable corner for the Zoom video.
If you look on Twitter, all of my photos are by like a closet door over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a very filled apartment.
So, as you must when you are manufacturing out of it, right? Like
yeah. Well, it's weird to have a 1-bedroom apartment as a couple who are makers, because he has technically the living room is Lixie Labs, the dining room is the living room, and my art studio is the bedroom with a bed. So it's definitely very cramped. And then I'm also a special effects makeup artist, so then the bathroom becomes also part of my area.
So is that your day job?
I wish. Sort of, I guess. Part of the year I do work as an actor and makeup artist at a haunted house. So that's mainly where I get all my time in to be able to do that. But currently I'm actually a preschool teacher.
Nice. Cool.
So so I kind of actually get to I'm a Montessori preschool teacher. So it's literally all about learning with just hands-on, as hands-on as it can possibly be. Like not the teachers being hands-on, but the kids themselves doing very hands-on work.
Yep.
So I've actually taken a whole bunch of 3D prints in, like threaded prints and stuff like that. And I've made a whole bunch of works that are actually like a little bit pushed towards the STEM side. Obviously, they're still trying to learn how, like, how does a nut and a bolt go together,
Yeah.
But it's cool because I can definitely see which of my kids are like super interested in like how things work. And I'm like, oh, you're just going to be an engineer in the future. I can see it now. And it's so cool to see that, to be around all these kids who are just little geniuses. So.
I feel like you should have a preschool yearbook that's sort of like the senior yearbook, that's like the most likely to blah, 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 but in preschoolers, because that would be amazing to look back on.
All of them type in their own yearbook quote.
Yeah, exactly.
Half of them don't even know like letters yet. Oh my gosh.
So Bob is asking, so when are you going to sell the Lixie test jig?
We've actually had a few people ask if it's open source.
Ah, yeah.
And so, which I mean,
it can be. I just haven't done that yet.
We don't really find. We don't know why.
Reservations, yeah.
Yeah. Because like it only works if you're going to test what you already have, and hopefully, we tested them already, so hopefully they all work.
But the design itself, or the firmware that's running the LED checks and that voltage drop thing, that's definitely something I should generalize and release soon.
I was gonna say, I think that is definitely the thing of interest, because there are a lot of different people doing different things with addressable LEDs, and I think that is it would be very interesting to other makers who are doing addressable LED art type of things. Yeah,
it'd be really cool.
Yeah.
We have a recommendation to make some money first before making it open source.
Yeah. Well, open source is just an interesting thing, because who was the guy who said it best about?
Nathan Seidel the co-founder of SparkFun.
Mm-hmm.
He has a TED Talk online, if you guys haven't seen it, anyone watching, where he discusses the pros and cons of open source.
Yeah.
And it turns out by the end of it, there's no real cons. Not really.
Yeah.
Because the obvious ones you would throw up, if someone doesn't understand the open source hardware community, they'd be like, wait a minute. Why? That's like the opposite of a patent. Don't you want a patent? Right. So, not necessarily, actually, because there's a lot of creative thinkers out there and people willing to share their work and people that can take your work and make it into something you never even thought it could do. Mm-hmm. And even if you have a patent, you're going to get cloned anyways.
Yep.
It doesn't matter. So just make it better for the customer. Because I've had stuff before, like that little vector robot that rolls around.
Yeah.
That company went defunct. And now I can't do anything until makers go through and figure out how to dump the ROM contents on all the little chips and decrypt it. And it's a pain in the butt. Whereas if it had like an open source or a SDK that stuck around, I would still be able to use it as a customer. So I would have only benefited if they made it open source.
Yeah. It is a hard and a scary thing to contemplate too. And I think it depends upon your product a little bit, but definitely I would say that especially for things that are like geared towards learning and are platforms that you can build other things upon, open source is definitely the way to go. Yeah.
I didn't go to school for computer science or anything. I went for graphic design.
Mm-hmm.
So all of this computer science or programming Arduinos or writing assembly code, it's just because there was thousands of open source things out there that I could dig into. I could break one thing and say, okay, so I now know that function was called from this one, and I go find it. And, it's a good exercise just to go pick a simple Arduino library and just read it. Just go look at all of it. See how they did it, how the class constructors worked, or how verbose they are with how many functions they make you do or don't make you do. Because one of the things I pride myself on with the Pixie Chroma displays is the library is no more complicated than you need it to be. So if you just needed to show text, it's like 3 lines. But if you wanted it to have like an interrupt service routine that keeps some animation going inside of the text or something complex like that, you can also do that. But you don't have to know how to do complex stuff to do the basic thing.
Right.
I think if you can make a product with an Arduino library, especially, that is perfectly suited for whoever picks it up. So if it's brand new, like it's your day one working with Arduinos and wires and stuff, you should be able to hook it up with really good comments in the code of how to do so. And if you are super advanced with it, you should be able to have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be bored of it too fast.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. No, I think you've definitely nailed it. And just definitely reading through other people's libraries has helped me a lot. Adafruit's stuff is really great in that regard. I definitely learned about driving graphic LCDs through their open source graphic LCD driver
library.
Yep, that was really useful. So let's see. Yep, Bob says he thinks about how to test hardware and code before he actually creates any portions. So he's all on testing from the beginning. And Tom also echoes that open source is the way. This is the way. Cool. And you're actually OSHWA certified too with the Pixie.
We are,
Pixie Chromas? Yeah. Nice. How was that process? Did you have to do a lot of extra work, or did you pretty much were you pretty much like, well, we already made all of our documentation open source and had it online, so it was pretty easy to do?
Yeah. It's actually not too bad. So if you want, so for anyone who's out of the loop, if you want to get a little mark like this on your PCB, or an ID that goes with it. So like the original Lixie was US 54. I was really early on that one.
Nice.
And then the Pixie Chroma is US 2058. All you need to do is make sure that like your Arduino code's on GitHub or GitLab or whatever, Gitbucket alternative, and try to make sure that any hardware files are in an accessible format. So not everyone has, Autodesk Inventor or even uses that anymore. Yeah. So it counts as open source hardware, but it's not a preferred way to do it if you have a proprietary file format. So technically, I use Eagle for my PCBs, and the PCBs are all small enough that the free version of Eagle can still work with them.
Right.
But if I had a bigger one, I would probably want to do something like KiCad that anyone can open up. It's like Adobe Illustrator versus Inkscape. Yeah. If you can give out Inkscape files, that's better for everyone. So OSHWA, the Open Source Hardware Association, are in charge of verifying basically your integrity with how open source you are. Make sure you've got that whole checklist. There's nothing really missing there. And once they've signed off on that, you get a permanent ID that you can put on the boards. And then in the future, what's really cool about having that ID on there is if somebody just completely lost the documentation or like how to get to it, if they type in that ID number, it'll show up on the OSHWA site, and you can get to all of the stuff that was submitted to have it qualified as open source hardware.
Cool. Very cool. Yeah, that is nice. I hadn't thought about that. It's nice to have multiple avenues because, you might be, people appear and disappear all the time. Businesses appear and disappear. And so to have that kind of permanent record of it as well is pretty nice. Cool.
So yeah, definitely do it. It's fun. Like it's just fun to see you've been like certified on something. Like anybody who's ever passed a ham radio test, and got their ham radio license, it's just fun to qualify for something like that, to pass the test.
To be able to show your credentials.
Well, it was not on the back of this one, because this is one of our prototyping boards, but we got CE and UKCA certified.
Oh, nice.
We had to.
So the CE and UKCA, CE is Conformité Européenne. I don't know if I said that correctly, but and then UKCA is the stupid Brexit version of that now. Thanks, Britain, for all your love. So and the way those work is when you're selling enough product over to Europe, you have to self-declare that your product meets the following, I think they call them directives. Yeah. So like the Pixie Chroma qualifies under restriction of hazardous substances, this is lead-free, and EMC directive, which basically means it doesn't disturb, it's not going to throw square waves all over the radio spectrum.
Right.
And if it does, it's 800 kilohertz, really low power.
Now, did you actually go to a lab that did outside testing for that? And was that part of?
No, so that's actually, it's a self-certification. Okay. So FCC or Underwriters Laboratory, the UL mark, those are ones where you would have to send it to a lab and pay an exorbitant amount of money for what is actually being done there. But a CE or UKCA is basically under penalty of perjury, I promise this doesn't have lead in it, or this doesn't screw up these certain frequency bands.
Yeah. I just wasn't sure if you had to have Well, or if you were supposed to have sort of like a documentation trail in support of that as well.
Yeah, so we have a safety data sheet in English and German was our requirement. And that's also, I don't think that's publicly accessible yet. I should just put it on the GitHub. But I gave that to Crowd Supply, and they'll give it to
It'll be
whoever.
I think on the Crowd Supply site when you purchase, as well as Mouser, because Pixie Chroma should end up all as well on the Mouser website. And yeah, they should have it linked. So
yeah.
Now, is that something that that like Crowd Supply and Mouser kind of drove, or were you just like, we might as well do this? Okay.
I'd never done it before Crowd Supply, and it's not super exciting. It's a lot of legalese to make sure it's all correct. Crowd Supply was definitely on top of it, figuring that out with us. But yeah, definitely. If anyone has any CE, UK, CA questions about like, a similar kind of board, what you would have to write on the papers, hit us up. We got some tips.
Once you know how to do it, it's a pretty simple process.
Yeah.
It was just the process of figuring out what is a directive with all these other weird numbers, and why
long strings of numbers.
Why does UKCA have to be different? Because the thing is with them breaking apart is it's all, some of them are different and some of them are the same, and you don't know which ones you're supposed to put on the different documents. It's a process.
Yeah, I can imagine. And like, it is definitely one of those things that is not sexy about selling stuff.
No. I got it done.
Yeah, right.
But because it was like super simple for like future products, we've kind of considered just doing it.
Now.
Yeah, we have a template, and like most of all of our products are LED based, so it would pretty much be the same sort of thing over and over and over again for other products, which is kind of nice because you just may as well. It doesn't cost you any money; you just get it printed on the board.
Yeah.
And then,
Cool.
Yeah. So we had to do a declaration of conformity. That's what it was called.
Yes. I've received those in different things before. Yes. Cool.
Yeah, we're starting to move. So for a few years, I've been on the Tindy side, where it's kind of just been a really good hustle. But now, I'm moving into more like I'm getting certified to legally sell to Europe, and I just paid a tariff. And now I've got vendors and purchase orders and stuff that my brain hasn't quite locked onto yet. Invoicing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot. It is definitely a lot. And this is not your full-time business, is that correct? It is? Oh, dang. So no day job. This is not a side hustle. This is like full-time focus.
Yeah, it is. It has been very tough at times to maintain that as a full-time thing. Yeah. And I've definitely done stuff on the side for, just like graphic design commission or things like that over the years to help maintain that during the tougher parts. Should always have some sort of fallback. But right now it's looking pretty good. I think I'm really excited for this year.
Good.
Also, he does so much that it's way more than even 40 hours a week for what he just does. So.
I like to tell people that want to do like a hardware business. It's like, it's awesome. You can pick any 14 hours a day you want.
Yeah, you're here. You're here. Totally. I was going to ask, so do you, are you then doing your own graphic design on the different, like, not flyers, but I don't know, I've seen things for like the Pixie Chroma that are kind of like digital postcard type of type of things, because I was admiring those look really nice. So cool.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah,
nice
to
be able to draw skills. Yeah,
a lot of Photoshop for those kind of graphic designy fancy product images.
Yeah.
And then the CGI ad, that was done in Blender, which is an open source 3D modeling and rendering application.
Cool. Very cool. Awesome.
He also writes all the music for it.
Oh yeah, I did the music too.
Like,
for any 14 hours a day you want.
Just like, are you sure it's not more like 20 hours a day?
Sometimes it's 36 hours a day. It just depends on the day. I'm getting older. I can't do all-nighters like I used to.
Oh God, tell me about it. Worthless the next day. Oh. Well,
Just, like,
cool.
sick from coffee by 9 a.m.
Oh, well, we are pretty close to 7, which is our like cutting it off time. But it's been awesome to have you guys on. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for like sharing your journey with us and for, you know, telling us all about the cool things that you're doing. It's really cool. And thank you, Halle, for sharing your art with us. That is not our topic. It is very, very cool. And yeah, it's part of what we're all about, is making cool things. So
she's a maker.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. Don't
not jumping wires, so doesn't mean you're not making
like, don't have imposter syndrome about that. You belong.
Thank you.
You absolutely belong.
Thank you.
Cool. Well, great. Awesome.
Well, right, enjoy your Lixie IIs.
Yeah, I know. And you know, successful making of a project on the stream too. That's always good. Awesome.
I'm very relieved.
Great. Well, we will see everybody next week. So next week, because I got my weeks mixed up last week and I totally misspoke. Next week is probably what I said that we were going to do last week, next week, which is put together some demo circuits with like decade counters and maybe 555 timers and do some breadboarding. Yes, that might be fun.
Neat.
Cool.
All right.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for joining us and see you next time.
Goodbye, Carrie. This was fun.